I'm just finishing up mixing the dry ingredients of our fry bread dough. It's just flour, baking powder, powdered milk, and salt. You can also use, instead of powdered milk, you can use powdered soy if you want a vegan option for your fry bread. And the big difference between the vegan and non-vegan is that fry bread with milk in it turns a nice brown. Fry bread with soy in it kind of stays this yellowy blonde color. So the only wet ingredient we have for this recipe of fry bread is water, and the amount of water you use kind of varies a lot. It can depend on how humid it is, how cold it is, how thirsty your flour is. So I always start with this is a huge recipe of fry bread we're making. So I always start with at least probably 2 cups. I'm just pouring by eye here because I've done this lots of times. You can always use a measuring cup if it makes you more comfortable. And then when you start to mix, gentle, mix from your shoulder. Don't use your wrist and your forearm too much. Because we're using flour, regular flour, there's gluten in it, and gluten is like a glue. If we overwork it, the fry bread will become puck-like. And nobody wants puck fry bread, unless you're playing hockey.
Is the water cold or warm?
It's cold. Yeah. So I can still see my dough remains really thirsty. See how there's so much dry flour still in it. So I just poured in another thing of flour or water, and I'm just going to keep moving it with really gentle, loving intention. There, so I can see this is quite a thirsty batch of fry bread, so I'm going to be nice and generous with it. And you want to be sure that you're digging down to the bottom to get all that dry stuff that collects down there. Just about there, not quite though. Grab more water. There we go. Yeah, so the big key with making fry bread dough is to never over mix it. Pretty much just want to go until everything looks pretty much combined. And if your dough starts to dry out when you're making a big batch like this, that's okay because you can just splash a little bit more water in as you go. There we go. So I can see, I'll hold the texture up. It is still a titch dry, so I'm going to just splash a tiny bit more water in. And I think for this batch, I probably used at least 1.5 liters of water. But there's been times I've gotten away with a lot less than that. Especially when I've made fry bread in the rain in November, outside.
Here is an additional piece, Zofia, that the dry mixture can also, some of it can be kept so that you can roll the breads into there.
Yes, meat wedge, thank you. So, at this stage I actually just get rid of these gloves because they're such a mess. I'm going to switch them out for other ones. So we've got our fry breads all patted out and ready to go, and we're just going to add them into the hot oil, and you'll know the oil's hot when it really just sizzles right away as soon as you have the fry bread in. Sure. Okay. Holy, and this one's a little bit more cooked than necessary. I bet this one's perfect. Yeah. So on your first flip, you want to have it almost sort of golden. This one's going to get a little hard, but that's okay. It'll still be good.
You just flip it the once?
You just flip it one time, yeah. You're going to cook it on both sides. This is a very hot stove, so I think we're going to have a way shorter